Hidden Consumers Consulting, and today we're going to talk about outdoor events and accessibility and inclusion. And I'm bringing this up for a couple of reasons. Is there's still a lot of chatter around the post I made a couple of weeks ago, so kind of want to just keep talking about that, getting more information out. I've also run into some really great um, advice columns for a variety of other areas of people's disabilities that I can't really effectively talk about because I'm not someone with those issues. So I want to share those resources as well with people. But the other big thing is being that I am in NABO, Inland Empire is my local chapter in California. I'm also on the executive board as secretary for NABO California, and our annual event for NABO California is a conference and advocacy days in Sacramento. I kind of plugged it last week, but since then it's been announced that I am the accessibility director for this event. And I want to share some experiences of why I think this is really important. Our conference and advocacy event are indoors and outdoors. We're, as I like to say, walking and rolling, because I'll be in a wheelchair, and I'm sure other people will be too, to go from our hotel where the event is being held to the Capitol. So there's some things that need to be considered. Like, I'm going to want to actually, I haven't been to the area yet. So one of those things that I have to do when I get there is I have to roll my way over to the Capitol to figure out where everything is. I got to make sure that are there cuts in the sidewalk so I can easily maneuver up and down sidewalks. Like, surprisingly, there aren't everywhere. It, it just blows my mind. I was at yesterday was actually my very first day out in my first set of wheels. I went to the mall, and the mall did not have clear cutways for the sidewalk, and they did not always have a clear handicap accessible area. The blue lines to go from the parking lot from where the cars are parked, your handicap park, where in the handicap section area to the sidewalk. Um, and I'm assuming it's because, they only do that in specific areas. If you're someone with a disability, you need a wheelchair, you have to be very strategic and pick where you park your vehicle, which to me is what it is. I get it. This mall was built well after the 90s, though. So you would have thought maybe they would have made the full mall accessible, but no, not at all. So that's kind of where a lot of this is coming from. So first thing I want to do is share with you a really great podcast that I was just listening to. I haven't finished listening to it because I just found it. And I'm like, I've got to share this with people. It's perfect timing. It is a podcast called Autism Pleasantville is the name of this episode. Why this is important to me is I know that people who are on the spectrum need special needs that also they need to make them feel included as part of the event. One of the really key things that they talked about is if you know one person with autism, you know one person with autism. You can't say that person and apply it to everybody, right? It doesn't work that way. So how do you find this balance, especially if you're in a work environment or if you're holding events, where you can still have that inclusion for a variety of people? And what's the other great takeaway that I took out of this, and I still haven't reached the end of this podcast, was that talk about is while we're doing things to make things better for a specific population due to whatever reason, it actually is a benefit to everyone, right? So when you have the cutaways in the sidewalk for a wheelchair user, you're now making life easier for those pushing carts and having deliveries. You're making life easier for moms with strollers, right? It's not just about being an access only for those with disabilities, but we're making life easier for the general public. And that's one of the big points is when you're so focused on one portion of the public, typically those without disabilities, you're focusing on that one group. You're not being open and accessible, and you're not being a benefit to everybody around you. Now, this for me is extremely frustrating when it comes to those outdoor events. I do not attend any community events. And like I said, I've been on crutches since 2015. But the reason I don't attend community events is my city deliberately removes all handicap parking for events. So if I want to go, I have to find parking where I can get my door open without hitting someone else's car, because that is the point of the striping for those in the handicapped disabled parking spots, right? You're not supposed to park there. So I can open my door to get in and out safely. And so your car doesn't get damaged. And trust me, if you park next to me and you're on those lines, I will damage your car, because you don't do that. Um, Let me get off that soapbox. So the point is, they're removing my ability to be included in those events, and not just mine. Um, it's everybody who needs that handicap space. And the fact that they think that every event they can just exclude those with disabilities, it's very frustrating. But what's even more frustrating is City Hall. City Hall is not handicap accessible either. Not in a way that, you know, that makes it like I know going to go there today for a meeting, because I'm meeting a legislative affairs person for the community, and I know I can't take my wheelchair. I know that no matter how bad my legs are, what shape I'm in, I have to use my crutches, because I can't get my wheelchair through the hallways. Every hallway I've been in is like this. It's a zigzag. It's not just open for people to get into. So yeah, this is not the city I live in is not accessibility friendly. And that's just for a mobility user. But now when you're planning your events, it's not just about mobility, right? It's about being really intentional with how you produce your events so that everybody can feel included. There are people on the autism spectrum who they want to be involved, but they don't want to be around all those people. Like they want to be there, but they don't want to have to touch people, right? So picking an event that allows people to be spread out and allow people to be there and be present, but not having to be sitting like shoulder to shoulder with someone. That could be an important way to include another group. Um, the podcast also talked really, it was really important about being intentional about the sound. Your audio is so key that you have to make sure that everyone can hear it, but it's not going to drive away people who really do have auditory issues. The amount of times we've gone to events where we're like, that sound system is just so loud, it's ridiculous, right? Like it's and it's like driving, it's grating on your last little nerve, because there's something wrong with it. There's a wire, there's a sound that's just off enough, and you're like, oh, and I know for me, I'm not diagnosed autistic. I don't believe I am, but there are sounds that absolutely grate on me. And when I'm at an event with a larger sound system, it's an outdoor event, more than likely there's going to be an issue. And is that possible that we can have auditory training where that is balanced out so you don't get those grating sounds? Because even though it drives me crazy on a little slightly different level, the people around me are going, why is it that loud? Why can't they turn that down? Why can't they bring that volume back? So you've really got to think about your event and what you're trying to get through to people, but how inclusive are you to everybody? It's not just about being able-bodied and attending. It's really, are you including everybody to be there? My city clearly does not care. I've lived here 5 years. Nope. Nope. Inclusion is not what they do here. But I'm so thankful to be in Nabo, California, where as an organization, they really are making that effort to be more inclusive. Now, as the accessibility director for them, I also know that I'm not going to be able to be accessible to absolutely everyone this first time around. The event is in 4 weeks. I'm going to do the best I can. Hopefully people are willing to talk to me about their experiences, because I want that feedback. I want to know, what did you experience? What would have made this a little bit different for you? so that we can bring those comments together. And since I'm on the executive board in my capacity, I can bring those notes and say, this is the overall feedback I was getting for next year. Can we put into place that we have these and things in place? Like one of the things I will be asking them if I can create a committee around accessibility. So those who are on the autism spectrum, so those who have vision issues and those who are hearing impaired can all be part of this group to make sure that we're at least finding a balance that makes us open to more people and inclusive to those in different areas. I don't have a hearing issue. Vision, I have a slight vision issue, but there's going to be people who have actual, diagnosed, they are blind, whatever. I want their opinions. I want their solutions, and I want to be able to work that out. People on the spectrum, I need someone or two or three. One person can't talk for an entire community, right? Like I can't talk for everybody with a disability. My experience isn't your experience. So that's the key, though. You see how my goal with this moving forward is we're including everybody, but getting their voices heard. And that is really the point to being inclusive. Are you listening to those voices, or are you, as a person with no disability whatsoever, determining what's best for a different community without their input? Because you have no idea. And listen to that podcast, the Autism Pleasantville, because you will understand 100% what I'm talking about when you hear their experiences. Now, the thing is they did the Mesa, Arizona is the first community certified as an autism friendly type community. They ran into a lot of issues, and it's really because the certification, they didn't understand what they needed to do, and making certain changes weren't always feasible, right? But things weren't really done properly. Like there was a quiet space in a toilet. I'm just going to say that's not ever acceptable, right? But those are the things. Like if you're not talking to someone in that community, you're just pulling straws and hoping it works. And that isn't how you bring inclusion and inclusiveness into your group, whether it be an outdoor event, whether you be in a building. You've got to talk to those with those disabilities in order to get really good inclusion in place. It's not just about the access. It's really about making sure we're involved, we feel included, so we can be there and support those. I don't support my community. Why would I? They don't want me here. They've made that clear over and over again. So those are the things you have to think about. And that's literally the bigger impact you're making. You are saying by not including them, you don't want them. And then where are you 5 years down the road when the country is, close to 75% disabled? You're depending on 25% of the population to support you. You're missing out on money. Bottom line is, if you want my money, you will have to include me. And that's all there is to it. And that is all there is to it for everybody else that has some level of disability. They don't want to just sit there. They don't want to just give you money because they can. They want to be included and they want their voices heard. So make sure you are talking to people in different communities to make sure you're getting at least a semblance and something set up. You'll never start off perfect, but you can grow and have a plan in place for how to get that feedback so you can move forward and keep growing and keep getting better, because that is truly your best option. All right. That is what I got for you today. Please feel free to put any comments here, message me. I want to share a couple of quick things. This is the post from NAWBO California announcing me as the Accessibility Director. So feel free to check out NAWBO California and what all of the great advocacy work we do to really support all business owners. And my goal is all should mean all, not just able-bodied people. If you want to learn more about me and Hidden Consumers Consulting, check out hiddenconsumersconsulting.com. Slightly making some updates right now. The website is going to be some wording changes on the homepage already this morning. So little tweaks are happening. And let's see. And then the last thing here is this is the post that started it all. So if you want to go back and understand what I'm referencing and what's being said, check out my LinkedIn profile and look for the post with me sitting in a wheelchair wearing a black t-shirt. It's yeah, not my best picture, but it works. So there you go. And one last time, I highly recommend listening to this podcast, the show, the podcast show Autism Pleasantville, and take it in. It's a 37-minute podcast. I've got probably another 10 minutes to go when we get done here, but I highly recommend reading this or listening to this. It's not just, it will help you understand not just the autism perspective, but it will start to put in perspective other ways of thinking about being inclusive to everybody around you. All right. Have a great day. Enjoy and make sure you're inclusive to everybody.